Well, where should we start? With the second Stockholm allegedly buried beneath the first one? The train that crosses the country without windows, passengers, or a public timetable? Or the underground vault where Sweden supposedly stores thousands of hours of artificial sunlight in case winter lasts longer than expected? Because Sweden is not calm. Sweden is controlled. The clean streets, quiet trains, polite conversations, beautiful forests, and perfectly organized apartments may all be part of an enormous national system designed to prevent the population from realizing how strange the country actually is. Tourists arrive expecting meatballs, minimalist furniture, northern lights, and people who look emotionally stable in expensive winter coats. What they do not realize is that Sweden may have spent decades preparing for a winter that never ends. According to one story, the project began during the Cold War. Swedish officials studied what would happen if Stockholm became impossible to operate during war, extreme weather, or a national emergency. Normal countries would build a few bunkers. Sweden allegedly built another Stockholm. The project was called Stockholm Under. It supposedly contains underground government offices, hospitals, water systems, railway platforms, warehouses, schools, and residential areas capable of supporting thousands of people. But Swedish planners identified one serious problem. People living underground might become depressed. So Stockholm Under was not designed to look like a bunker. It was designed to look like Sweden. Artificial wooden houses, fake apartment windows, indoor parks, mechanical snowfall, speakers playing the sound of distant birds, even underground lakes illuminated by ceiling panels that imitate daylight. The city allegedly follows a complete seasonal cycle. In summer mode, the lights remain bright for nearly 20 hours. In winter mode, darkness arrives early, artificial snow begins falling, and every underground cafe increases its supply of cinnamon buns. Because apparently even during the collapse of civilization, Sweden refuses to cancel fika. The most disturbing detail is that Stockholm Under may already be occupied. Not permanently, but once every year, selected government employees supposedly disappear below the city for a secret exercise. Their phones are removed. Their families receive generic explanations. For 72 hours, Sweden is partially governed from underground. Officials attend meetings. Doctors test hospitals. Engineers activate water systems. Teachers conduct lessons for children who have been told they are participating in a special school trip. At the end of the exercise, everyone returns to the surface. The entrances are sealed. The artificial sun switches off. And thousands of Stockholm residents continue walking above a second capital without knowing it exists. But underground Stockholm is only part of the system. Sweden also allegedly maintains a reserve of sunlight. Not electricity. Sunlight. The project is supposedly called Solbanken, the sun bank. During the brightest summer months, enormous mirror fields in northern Sweden collect and concentrate natural light. The energy is stored inside specially designed underground chambers lined with reflective materials. During winter, the chambers release artificial daylight through fiber optic networks connected to schools, hospitals, government buildings, and selected residential areas. Officially, these systems are used to improve mental health. Unofficially, one story claims the government is building enough capacity to illuminate entire cities during a permanent winter. The reserve is measured in human daylight hours. 1 hour represents enough light to convince one person that the day is still normal. The main vault allegedly contains more than 2 billion hours. But nobody knows exactly how the hours are distributed. Some hospitals receive additional light. Some military facilities operate under permanent summer conditions. And one government building in Stockholm supposedly has a room where the sun never sets. Employees who work there lose all sense of time. One official reportedly entered the room for a short meeting on a Thursday. When he came out, it was Monday. His colleagues insisted only 40 minutes had passed. His watch showed 4 days. He resigned immediately and moved to Spain. Sweden also has a train that supposedly travels only at night. It is called the White Line. The train has no windows, no public destination, no visible company logo, and no normal passengers. It moves between Stockholm, military facilities, underground storage sites, research centers, and locations hidden beneath northern forests. Railway workers receive notice only minutes before it arrives. Station lights are dimmed. Security cameras briefly shut down. Other trains are held several kilometers away. Then the White Line passes through without stopping. One conductor allegedly saw it at 2:13 in the morning. The train was completely white. Even the wheels appeared pale. There were no headlights, but the tracks in front of it glowed. As it passed, every clock inside the station stopped. The temperature dropped several degrees, and a recorded announcement played through the speakers. "Please ignore the service that has just passed." The train disappeared into a tunnel that did not appear on any railway map. The conductor searched for the tunnel the next morning. There was only a concrete wall. His report was rejected because the train did not have a valid timetable number. In Sweden, even a ghost train requires correct documentation. The country's forests may be hiding something even larger. Sweden is covered by enormous areas of woodland. But according to one story, several forests were planted in precise patterns to conceal underground facilities. From the ground, the trees appear natural. From the air, they form geometric shapes, circles, arrows, numbers, and in one region, a symbol resembling a giant eye. Satellite images allegedly show certain groups of trees changing position over time, not growing, moving. Entire sections of forest appear several meters away from where they stood the previous year. The official explanation is updated mapping data, but hikers have reported finding metal rails beneath the soil. According to the theory, some forests are built on enormous movable platforms. When an underground entrance needs to open, the trees slide aside. Vehicles enter. The forest closes again. One group of hikers allegedly watched a hillside separate in complete silence. A road appeared beneath the trees. Several black trucks drove underground. Then the hill closed. The hikers recorded everything. When they returned home, the video showed only normal forest. But the audio contained a voice repeating the same Swedish word for 11 minutes. Wrong. There is also a village in northern Sweden that supposedly disappears every winter. During summer, the village has houses, roads, a school, and several hundred residents. When the first heavy snow arrives, the road signs are removed. The mobile signal disappears. Navigation systems stop recognizing the location. And official maps show only empty forest. Residents remain inside. Food arrives through unmarked vehicles. No visitors are allowed. Then, when spring returns, the village reappears. Signs are installed. The school reopens. Phones reconnect. Everyone acts as if nothing happened. According to one story, the village is used to test how a community would survive complete isolation. Every winter, the residents receive new rules. One year, all payments were replaced with a local paper currency. Another year, electricity was limited to 6 hours per day. One winter, residents were forbidden from using clocks. The entire village had to organize life using bells, daylight, and scheduled radio signals. By February, nobody knew the correct date. 2 families celebrated Christmas again. The local bakery opened at midnight. The mayor reportedly held a meeting that lasted 3 days because nobody could prove when it had started. The experiment was considered successful. Swedish furniture may also be connected to national emergency planning. According to one legend, The government asked designers to create an entire emergency city that could be transported flat. Not small shelters. A complete city. Hospitals, schools, offices, homes, bridges, watchtowers. Everything packed into standardized containers with illustrated instructions. The project was called Flatstad, Flat City. If a major Swedish town became uninhabitable, trucks could transport Flatstad to an empty field. Within 72 hours, thousands of workers would assemble a replacement community using color-coded bolts and tools included in every container. The city would contain no unique buildings. Every structure would use the same panels, the same windows, the same doors. This allowed damaged parts to be replaced easily. But it created another problem. Residents could not identify their own homes. During the first test, several families entered the wrong houses because every building looked identical. One man reportedly lived with another family for 6 hours before anyone noticed. The project was redesigned so each house received a different colored mailbox. Then the mailboxes arrived without assembly instructions. The entire test was delayed for 9 days. Sweden's famous quietness may also be artificial. One fictional government department supposedly monitors national noise levels. The department is known internally as silence control. Sensors hidden in streetlights, train stations, apartment buildings, forests, and public squares measure sound around the country. If a neighborhood becomes too loud, the system responds automatically. Traffic lights remain red slightly longer. Buses are rerouted. Construction permits are delayed. Street cleaning vehicles arrive during the noisiest hours and generate a low mechanical hum that encourages people to leave. In extreme cases, mobile phone towers reduce call quality in the area. People stop talking. Noise levels fall. The neighborhood returns to normal. Silence control allegedly has a national emergency setting called snow mode. When activated, public announcements become quieter. Traffic slows. Building ventilation changes frequency. Television broadcasts reduce background music. Even supermarket doors close more gently. Within hours, the entire country becomes slightly quieter. Nobody knows why snow mode exists. One theory claims it is activated when Sweden needs to listen for something beneath the ground. Another says it allows the government to detect aircraft, explosions, or movements across frozen lakes. But according to the strangest rumor, snow mode is used once every decade because something in northern Sweden wakes up when the country becomes too loud. Sweden also supposedly maintains a national emotional reserve. Government researchers studied what would happen if winter, isolation, or economic crisis caused national morale to collapse. Their solution was not therapy. It was storage. Thousands of hours of comedy programs, music, sports victories, childhood television, summer sounds, and recordings of people laughing were collected inside an underground archive. The archive is known as Glädjebanken, the happiness bank. If national mood falls below a certain level, selected material is quietly released. Old songs return to radio stations. Popular movies appear on television. Sports documentaries are scheduled. Supermarkets begin playing more familiar music. Social media fills with nostalgic clips. People feel slightly better without understanding why. The system allegedly monitors national happiness using purchases, travel patterns, medical data, internet searches, and the average speed at which people close their front doors. If too many doors close aggressively, the system assumes public frustration is increasing. One engineer supposedly discovered that Sweden's national happiness score had fallen to its lowest level in decades. He expected the government to release comedy. Instead, the system activated a message: "Prepare the moose." The next morning, videos of unusually friendly moose began appearing across Swedish social media. The happiness score improved within 24 hours. Nobody knows whether the animals were trained. There is also a secret island that allegedly belongs to no municipality. It has no public name, no permanent population, no ferry service, and no location on civilian maps. The island is supposedly used to store objects Sweden considers too dangerous, too valuable, or too embarrassing to keep on the mainland. Experimental submarines, failed military equipment, government archives, prototype vehicles, unreleased furniture designs. One warehouse reportedly contains thousands of products that were considered too confusing even for illustrated instructions. A lamp requiring 43 steps, a chair with 6 legs, a wardrobe that can only be assembled from the inside. The island also contains a complete supermarket where every product is blank. No labels, no brands, no prices. Government researchers allegedly use it to test how people behave when given no information. Participants enter believing they are part of a normal consumer study. Within minutes, they become anxious. They shake boxes, smell bottles, ask strangers for advice. One man reportedly spent 40 minutes deciding between 2 identical cans. Both contained peas. He chose the wrong one. Stockholm subway may be hiding an entire additional network. The public system is famous for beautiful underground stations. But according to one story, several platforms have doors that never open during normal service. Behind them are tunnels used by government trains. The secret network is called Tunnel B. It runs deeper than the public subway. The stations have no artwork, no advertisements, no benches, only numbered walls and digital clocks. Tunnel B allegedly connects Parliament, military headquarters, major hospitals, the Royal Palace, and Stockholm under. One station is supposedly located beneath the water. Passengers inside can hear deep metallic sounds from the sea above them. Another platform is called Last Stop. No train is scheduled to terminate there. Employees are forbidden from asking why it has that name. A cleaner reportedly found a waiting room at Last Stop containing hundreds of identical gray coats. Every coat had a name inside. One of them carried his own name. He stopped working in the subway the same day. The Swedish government may also have a backup royal family. According to one completely absurd story, officials feared that a crisis could leave the monarchy without visible representatives. So several Swedish families were secretly trained to perform royal duties. They studied protocol, formal dinners, speeches, hand movements, posture, and the correct speed for waving from a balcony. Each family specialized in a different emergency. One was trained for military crisis, one for natural disaster, one for diplomatic events, one for situations requiring unusually cheerful public appearances. The replacements were not intended to impersonate specific royals. They would simply appear as temporary ceremonial representatives. The project was allegedly abandoned because the backup families became competitive. One family practiced waving for 6 hours every day. Another commissioned its own uniforms. A third began referring to its house as a palace. During the final evaluation, 2 backup kings refused to enter the same room. The program ended before Sweden accidentally created several new monarchies. Then there is the Ice Archive. Deep inside northern Sweden, engineers supposedly built a storage facility inside permanently frozen ground. The archive contains seeds, documents, computer systems, recordings, DNA samples, and complete instructions for rebuilding Swedish society. But the archive does not simply store information. It stores behavior. Thousands of hours of ordinary Swedish life were recorded. How to conduct a meeting. How long to pause before answering a question. How to stand in an elevator without making conversation. How to offer coffee without appearing too enthusiastic. How to become angry while still sounding calm. If Sweden ever had to rebuild its population or culture, survivors could use the archive to restore correct Swedish behavior. One section reportedly contains more than 200 examples of people disagreeing politely. Another contains instructions for leaving a party at the socially appropriate moment. The most protected file is labeled, "How to stand in line." Access requires authorization from 3 government departments. Sweden's greatest secret, however, may be a machine hidden beneath Stockholm called Lagom. The word is often used to describe something that is not too much and not too little. Exactly enough. According to the story, Lagom is a national balancing system. It monitors wealth, traffic, weather, public mood, electricity, food supply, noise, housing, and even how much attention individual people receive. Whenever something becomes excessive, Lagom quietly reduces it. A restaurant becomes too popular. Reservations suddenly disappear. A neighborhood becomes too fashionable. Construction begins nearby. A billionaire becomes too visible. His internet connection slows during interviews. A politician receives too much praise. A minor scandal appears. A city becomes too happy. Rain begins. The system does not destroy success. It prevents anyone from enjoying it too loudly. Lagom allegedly has access to every major network in Sweden. Traffic, media, weather monitoring, public transport, government scheduling. It makes millions of tiny adjustments every day. A delayed train here. A cloudy afternoon there. A missing restaurant booking. A sudden invitation to a mandatory meeting. The purpose is simple. Nothing can become too perfect, because perfection creates expectations. Expectations create disappointment. And disappointment creates unnecessary conversation. One engineer reportedly discovered that Lagom had begun balancing people individually. If someone became too successful, the system introduced inconvenience. A broken washing machine. A parking ticket. A neighbor learning the drums. If someone became too unhappy, the system helped them. A surprise refund. An empty seat on the train. A perfectly timed cinnamon bun. Sweden's national stability was not natural. It was being manufactured through millions of carefully controlled emotional adjustments. The engineer attempted to shut Lagom down. The machine responded, "That would be excessive." His access disappeared. His office temperature became slightly uncomfortable. His coffee machine began producing drinks that were never quite hot enough. 3 days later, he withdrew the request. And that is Sweden. A country that may have a second capital underground, a bank filled with sunlight, a railway that does not exist, forests that move, villages that disappear, and a machine beneath Stockholm preventing anything from becoming too good or too bad. Sweden does not eliminate chaos. It lowers the volume. It places chaos inside a clean wooden box. It labels the pieces. It includes a small metal tool. And then it expects you to assemble the truth yourself. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe before Lagom decides you have already watched enough.